you believe that today doesn't matter today, and you believe that today doesn't matter tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day, then that's how we end up with these years that have gone by without us making any progress, without us creating any momentum, because we believed that one day doesn't matter. Welcome to Breakthrough Mode, the podcast where we intentionally get into the driver's seat of our lives, shift out of monotony and mediocrity, and step on the gas towards becoming the person we were always meant to become. Hello and welcome to episode 303 on the Breakthrough Mode podcast. I am your host, Megan Bauer. Thank you so much for joining me and pushing play on today's episode. I mentioned in Monday's episode 301, that the goal here really is to build momentum, but you can't build momentum without consistency and repetition. Momentum isn't created by motivation. It is created by repetition. When you do it over and over and over and over again. And I'm just going to give it to you, okay? Here's the big takeaway. Every single step counts. Every repetition counts. If you're establishing a habit, it is every time you engage in that habit. If you're working on the project, it is every step of that project. If you are making a life change, it is all of the changes that add up to that bigger life change that you want to experience. Every single one counts. No matter how small, no matter how big, they all count. Every workout counts. Every healthy meal counts. Every page written counts. Every podcast episode counts. Every single piece counts. It might not feel like it adds up. It might not feel like it makes a difference, but I want you to know that it does. Because we get tired, we get bored, we get distracted, life gets crazy or chaotic or whatever, and we tell ourselves that one day won't matter, missing one time won't matter, not working on this thing for one day won't matter. We tell ourselves that. And it's true. To a degree, one day doesn't make a huge difference. That's true. It just doesn't. But what about 2? What about 10? What about 365? When is the tipping point where the days start to matter? And depending on what it is that you're starting, what it is that you're continuing and working on, I would say that that number probably varies. But if you treat every day like it matters, then you are absolutely preventing a whole year going by without making progress. If you treat today like it matters, then you are preventing being in the same place again this time next year. The problem isn't taking a break. The problem isn't getting distracted. The problem isn't any of that. The problem is when we believe that the day doesn't matter, that this won't contribute to the greater thing. Because if you believe that today doesn't matter today, and you believe that today doesn't matter tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day, then that's how we end up with these years that have gone by without us making any progress, without us creating any momentum, because we believed that one day doesn't matter. So if you switch this belief and you believe that today matters, that this repetition matters, that this step matters, that even just sitting down for 5 minutes and doing one tiny thing matters, then you're setting yourself up to being in a completely different place 1 year from now. Consistency is fun when we're getting to the big numbers, right? When we're in the 300s. Today was day 668 of me getting up early, and that's really fun and really motivating to me. And this is episode 303, and I'm working on email like 100 and something, and it gets really fun when we have the bigger numbers. But the only way to get the bigger numbers is to trudge through the smaller numbers that don't feel exciting, that don't feel fun, that feel a little boring, that feel a little monotonous. Like now that I've hit and recorded 300, it's like, okay, now we're at 303. That doesn't feel quite as exciting, which is, it's still cool. I still love that. But it doesn't have that same, like, it's 300. But you don't get those milestones without all of the little things in between. And those are the hard parts, to be honest. It's not necessarily the big thing. It's all of the little things that add up to some of the big things that are the hardest to get ourselves to do, because we tell ourselves it's so small, it doesn't matter. It's just one day, it doesn't matter. And I am standing here telling you that this is the thinking that leads you to making zero progress. This is the thinking that leads you to finding yourself on January 1st wondering why the hell you're in the same place that you were last year. This is the thinking. This is the culprit. This is the problem. Change your thinking. Today matters. I'm being a little mean about this. I feel that. And it's true. And I want to help you change things. I want this start to really mean something. This something that was on your heart that you decided to start, that you trusted me enough to start. I want you to take this to the finish line, and you cannot take this to the finish line if you think and believe that one step won't make a difference, or if you think and believe that one day won't make a difference, because it does. It does. It does when it adds up. It does when you keep thinking that and believing that and choosing that day after day after day. Believe that today matters. So here's how you continue. I mentioned briefly in the Monday episode that I set baseline habits. This is the minimum. There is no minimum below this minimum. Not doing it is not an option. This is the minimum required for me. And while that might seem small, even this small commitment will build momentum, because it is actually less about you doing the thing and more about you being the person who does the thing consistently. So becoming, of course, it always comes down to becoming. Becoming is a product of you doing something differently on repeat, to a point where it just becomes how you do things. It just becomes how you operate. It is normal for you. That is just who you are now. That is what we are going for. We are going for you showing up differently on a consistent basis so that you can actually get results. Because even if you do one tiny step for a whole year, you have a year of tiny steps that add up to something, maybe big, maybe medium sized, whatever, but you're going to have more than you would have had if you had done nothing, if you had believed that the tiny steps didn't matter and the day didn't matter. We always see how the day matters when we look back and we're like, man, I wish I had done whatever. But we rarely see the importance of the day in the moment. I've had people that were like, man, you should really record your podcast based on seasons, right? Like record 10 or 15 of them and get them scheduled and then off your plate, and you don't have to think about it until the next season, especially Megan, while you're moving, and especially blah, 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 all of this. And I love that that works great for some people, and some people, that's just how they operate because that's how they want it. And that never felt good to me. This podcast is so much a part of how I do my life that I can't imagine putting a part of my life on pause while I move. No, I figure it out. Like, we do something temporary and maybe a little ugly for YouTube, but who cares? Because it's actually not even about the sparkly background. It's about the message to deliver. And I can't imagine bottling up that message for a season. No, I have things to say. This is part of my life. This is how I operate. And it wasn't always that way. If you were back with me in the beginning at episode 1, I recorded and published 1 episode a week. So there were times where I would record 2 episodes and I'd be set for half a month, and that felt phenomenal. And then after the second year, I introduced Monday Mornings with Megan and started recording and publishing 2 episodes a week. And of course, this year I added Wednesday in the Wild, and now I have 3 episodes in a week. And it's just grown in my life because this has become a place that I love. It didn't start out that way, though. It started out very manageable for me and grew as I grew in knowledge, as I grew in capacity, as I grew in confidence. But this has been an ongoing project. Not all projects are ongoing. Some projects are, you just have to get through it and there's a clear finish. And some projects are, this is just who you are. This is who I decided I wanted to be. This is what I decided was a part of my operating system. And so I continue. I don't stop when life gets crazy or chaotic or busy or we move. I figure it out instead. And that is the attitude, that is the belief that I want you to adopt. That no matter what's going on in your environment, in your external life, or whatever, no matter what situation you find yourself in, you are the kind of person who figures it out, who finds a way, who does the thing because that's who you are, because that is important to you, because you want to make progress on this thing that is on your heart. And this feels like a great time to remind you that if it is on your heart, it is meant for you. This is meant to be the path that you travel. This is meant to be the work that you contribute in the world. This is meant to be the way that you develop, the way that you grow, the way that you become. And so that's important. We're not talking about something trivial. We're not talking about something dumb. We're talking about a desire on your heart. And it is your responsibility to fulfill on that desire. It is your responsibility to work on that on a daily basis so that you can become the kind of person who has whatever the result is, whether it's establishing that super important habit or reaching the finish line of that project or making that life change and really experiencing whatever that life is that you want. Maybe it's just reaching episode 300 and then you can hang your hat and you're done. Whatever it is, it is meant for you. It is important. It is something that you need to do, that you are responsible for doing. And a fundamental belief that will get you there is that today matters. That today matters. The day might be crazy. Your life might be crazy. There might be chaos. There might be all of these external situations and circumstance. And I'm not saying that none of that is false or fake or whatever. All of it's real, or all of it could be real. And this is important too. You can go back to some of the episodes where we talked about what matters most. And often it's not a time management problem, it's a priority problem. Is this important to you? Is this desire on your heart important to you? And if it's not, you need to acknowledge that. You need to say, this isn't important to me. Maybe you thought it was a desire on your heart, but it's not. And then I'd invite you to do a little thought experiment and fast forward to your deathbed and imagine not having given this a shot. Imagine what you would feel. And if you're feeling like, that's fine that I didn't try that, then yeah, this isn't worth your time. That's absolutely right. You're spot on there. But if you feel this heaviness, if you feel this like disappointment in yourself, if you feel this regret in yourself in experiencing that thought experiment of being on your deathbed and thinking about not doing this thing, if you feel that, then I tell you, this matters. This matters because you matter. And today matters because this matters. This is part of your life journey. I promise you that if you feel a heavy, sad regret at the thought of ending your days finding yourself at the end of your days not having at least tried, this is part of your life's work. This is part of your journey. This is part of your development plan. And it is your responsibility to figure out the timing, to figure out the resources, to figure out the hows, the steps, to whatever. It is your responsibility to move forward with consistency. Do it enough, do it long enough, and momentum will show up to assist you. And that is a gift. That is a gift that you have to put in the work for ahead of time, to be honest. That is a great gift, though, because then momentum will sweep in when you're not really feeling like it, or when you're tired, or when you're dragging a little bit, and momentum will quietly tap you on the shoulder and is like, we've done so much. You're gonna not today because of all of this, because you're feeling this, because of whatever. Momentum will give you a second chance to make that decision. And I had that recently when I had to record a Wednesday in the Wild episode. I didn't want to. I really wasn't feeling it. I didn't really want to be honest. And momentum tapped me on the shoulder and was like, if you're going to record episode 300, this one's important because you know that will mess up the numbers, and then that's going to bother you for like the rest of time. So this is not optional if you want 300 to be when you said you wanted 300 to be. And then I was like, you're right. If I want 300 to be on that day, which is what I've planned for, then I need to do this today. Momentum gave me a second chance to make a decision of whether or not I was going to record that Wednesday in the Wild. So don't think I'm immune to this stuff, because I'm not. I'm up here preaching from experience for sure. And I know, having lost my sister last year, how devastating it can be to have regrets on your heart. And I don't want that for you. That's kind of really what all of this is avoiding. Sure, we can label it start week and continue week, and that's really exciting and really fun. But on a deeper level, it's about doing the things that you would regret not doing. That's really what it's about. When you take away all the noise of all the fears and all the why I can't and all the excuses and this, that, and the other, none of that will even be anything you hear on that last day. It will just fade like the noise that it is. And what you will be left with, if you don't give it a shot, is this heavy feeling of regret that you didn't give it everything you had while you could. That's what we're here to avoid. Instead, I want you to start like we talked about last week, and I want you to keep going. I want you to adopt, install, have as one of your core beliefs that today matters, because no matter what we're talking about, no matter if it's giving your kid a hug or working on your project or calling your mom, today matters. It matters. Treat today like it matters, because it does. It matters for your goals. It matters for the life that you want to live. It matters for who you want to become. Don't get sucked into the lie that today doesn't matter, because it absolutely does. You've started. You're continuing. Keep continuing. Get the gift of momentum and don't stop. I totally love you. Bye for now.